have had the worst experience. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I told you I was gonna make another video. Um, so this video is it's not a rant. It's more. This video was back in 2021 when I entered into the Northern Virginia Criminal Justice Academy. Everybody wanted to know what happened. I saved this video. I was not gonna post it. I just felt like it wasn't. I just felt like it wasn't necessary for me to post because it was for me. I just want to make sure I make it perfectly clear. My experience overall, meeting my friends, getting to know the people there was great. Like, even the instructors, like, I genuinely, I'm still young, I'm still learning, I had my issues there, I had my struggles, I worked through them, and to be honest, like, everybody's gonna have their struggles, everybody's going to have to work through the things that they don't want to work through. So how I left the academy was dumb. A lot of people from that department still tell me to this day, like, you shouldn't have left, you should have just, hunkered down, we need people like you. And I was happy to stay, but the way they went about it, the academy and the department I was working for, I didn't like it. I was super offended the way they went about it. So, yeah, just hear me out and listen to my story, all right? All right, I'll talk to you. I have had the worst experience. It's not the worst, but I'm happy I met the people I met. They know who they are. I was actually gonna record this at my boy's house, but he he had some other stuff that he had to do today, so I was like, I might as well record it now before I forget. But yeah, so pretty much it's hard, y'all. Like, but to make a long story short, because this is gonna be a very short video, I had an issue for the past 2 weeks at this academy. Supposedly I was never on time, even though I was on time. It was way earlier than I was supposed to. I live 30 minutes away. Well, my uncle's house he lives 30 minutes away from the academy. I was always on time. But when it came to lineup or assembly, pretty much, it was like I was missing something. And so I'd run back to my desk, where we would pretty much have our academic classes at. And I would pretty much like read like what maybe if they questioned me on something, I'd go read it real quick, or I forgot my pens, or like I forgot my notebook. It was something like corny why I would run back and go get it. And so the people at my friends that I still have now to this day, they were like, Gloria, you're fine, don't stress, like, don't worry about it, whatever it is, we'll just write a memo, it's over with. So, like, in this academy, if you get a certain amount of memos, you pretty much get kicked out. If I'm not sure, I had three. One the fourth week, if I don't recall. Third or fourth week, I had one in the beginning of the academy. A month into the academy, I had another one. I don't really remember what it was. I think it was for a mouthpiece. I'm not sure. And for not bringing in a mouthpiece when we had our defensive tactics. And the last one was me not being at a lineup on time. So, to the lieutenant. He pretty much talked to me, and he was like, what can we do? Like, and this was last week. He was like, what can we do? I don't want to see you get any more freaking whatchamacallits. He was like, I don't want this to happen anymore. And I was, so pretty much he spoke to me, and he was like, what's going on? Like, what can I do to help you be better? And I'm like, sir, you're gonna make mistakes. I was like, and I've made mistakes. I was like, but I haven't made a lot. I said, I understand that, these memos are, to keep us in check, and I'm not afraid to come and talk to you. I was like, you're gonna have bad days. I was like, I've had bad days. I stress a lot. I was like, I'm new to this. And he was, he questioned me about one of the, I don't even remember what it was. One of the, Northern Virginia codes, and he was like, I must have gotten it wrong. And he was like, that's not the entire code. So I need you to write me a memo about the entire code. Now here it is. You just told me don't get another memo. How can we make you better? But then you want me to write another memo. Make it make sense. But anyway, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just let him talk. And I'll talk after if he asks me a question. So he pretty much went on, and he told me, like, we're going to do better. I was like, yeah, we'll do better. I will do better. And so he was like, all right. He's like, you got anything else to say? I was like, well, this whole thing, like, with you and my liaison always telling me that I need to get it together. Are you just saying that I need to get it together with, like, being on time? Because you can check the cameras, and I'm here at, like, 4 in the morning, and we don't need to be here until 6. He's like, no, I understand that you're on time. He's like, but assembly, you need to be lined up and not running to assembly. I was like, got you. 10-4, say less, right? So he was like, all right, Gory, then you're good to go. Go back to class. I was like, cool. Went back to class. Literally, 2 days later, I injured myself. We had this O course, and we pretty much, it's like a huge course outside in the parking lot. And you gotta jump off over this, like, 5-foot wall. Y'all, I'm 5 feet. It's hard, okay? But I made it work. I did it the first 2 times. I was like, last time it's not gonna be that bad. Let's do it. I did it. I jumped over it. I must have landed on my ribs wrong and, like, cracked a rib, bro. Like, it was bad. And I was, like, out of breath, hurting. Went to the doctor. The doctor was like, you hurt yourself. Like, I don't remember the details, but she was like, you really did hurt yourself. I was like, and to this day, right now, it still hurts. That was 3 weeks ago. It hurts. So I was like, what can I do? I need, I'm in the academy. She was like, you're going to be fine. She was like, you can't do rigorous workouts. Like, you're going to have to chill for, like, a couple weeks. I was like, okay, cool. So she was like, I can give you a steroid. I was like, nah, me and pills don't mix. Like, all the notes and everything I needed, gave it to called my liaison, told him what happened, and then emailed him. And then when I saw him the following week, gave him the paperwork just to make sure. Long story short, physical education teacher, the first day on that week when I gave my liaison the paperwork, he left. My liaison left because he had a family emergency. Of course, your family comes first. Not mad at that. So I thought my liaison would do the right thing and inform the physical educational teacher that I cannot participate. So I got into it with the physical educational teacher, and he was like, Gory, you need to write me a memo because you're not participating in PT. I was like, I would love to participate in PT. I said, but I cannot. I have a doctor's note. No. I need it, like, signed and dated. And I was like, okay, well, I gave all that paperwork to my liaison. I was like, so he left. He had a family emergency. He was like, I understand. That's fine. I understand that. But he didn't communicate that with me. I was like, okay, well, I'm communicating it to you. I'm telling you that I cannot participate. But I would like to participate in a supportive way by standing outside and talking and, like, supporting my team, my squad. He was like, no, No, you can't do that. You have to participate. I was like, wow, got you. Okay, so go and talk to uh the lieutenant. Lieutenant was like, yeah, we'll figure something out. He was like, don't stress about it. He's like, but just go write the memo. Cool. Wrote the memo. Everybody's done with PT. We're getting ready to leave. I go in and I go to the physical educational teacher's desk, and I was like, hey, here's your memo. And the memo pretty much said, like, couldn't participate in PT because I had a physical injury, date signed and whatnot. He was like, what happened? Why didn't you enter and you didn't have PT clothes? Because I do. They're in my car. He's like, why are they there? Why didn't you have them on and why didn't you participate? I said, I just told you, like I told you outside, I couldn't participate because I have a physical injury. And he was like, well, that's not going to cut it. I mean, your liaison didn't communicate that you had a physical. I said, I understand that. You told me that before in this memo. He was like, well, I want what I asked for. I want your PT clothes, and he wanted why I didn't participate in physical education. I was like, dude, I told you. I was like, I wrote it in the memo. I have my PT clothes, and I was like, I can go and get them for you, but I'm not saying I didn't have my PT clothes because I have them. He was like, all right, don't worry about it. We'll talk to the lieutenant. He gets back. I was like, cool. Alrighty. Have a good day. He was like, yep, you too, Lori. I was like, yep. Walked out. 3 days later, right? I have a meeting with the lieutenant, the coordinator meeting. He was like, did you lie about your injury? I was like, what are you talking about? What lie? What are you saying? He was like, okay, maybe I need to rephrase the question. I said, please do. And he was like, okay, so the conversation you had with your PT instructor. I said, yes. And I'm not going to say names. You're going to have to look them up. I was like, yeah, I spoke to so-and-so. He was like, okay, when he asked you, where's your PT clothes, what did you say? I was like, I told him my PT clothes are in my car, but I have a physical injury. I cannot participate. That was the end of the conversation. He told me to go write a memo. I went to go write a memo. He was like, okay, let me finish. I was like, sure. He was like, okay, when you said that, you went to go write the memo, you came back, and you spoke to him in his office. I was like, yeah. He was like, okay, so he was like, yeah, I'm asking, why didn't you have your PT clothes on? So because I wasn't participating in PT. Why would I go put PT clothes on if I can't participate? That would be looking like I can participate, and I can't. And he said, okay, so why didn't you explain? I said, I did. My liaison did not communicate that with the PT instructor. He's like, okay, well, we spoke to your liaison. He said that you gave him the paperwork, but never said you couldn't participate continuing on. I said, why would I? What? Can you repeat the question? Because I'm not getting it. He's like, so you told your PT instructor, you gave him the paperwork, but you never told him you couldn't participate in PT. That was the whole point of me giving the paperwork to him, was to back my ass up so that y'all know and he knows and the people at my department know I couldn't participate in PT. That's the whole point. So going further, I was like, is there anything else that you need to talk to me about? That was the question. Was that the only question? He said, well, I need to understand is this gonna be a continuously problem? I said, sir, we have a month left, not even. I have 4 more weeks left, 3. Why would it be a problem? He said, well, we need you to go speak to your captain and your lieutenant at your department about this. Because say what now? About me going to a doctor? He was like, yeah, well, we also heard that the doctor you went to, was this your uncle? I was like, no. I was like, I asked my uncle for advice on which doctor I should go to. He was like, well, that did you go to a doctor that for your department, like through your insurance for your department? I was like, yes. That's the whole point. of me asking him. He's from Virginia. I'm not. So what's the problem? I don't even know what my uncle has to do with this. He said, well, we're trying to get the entire story. Did you go to your uncle and he signed this, or did you actually go to a doctor? I said, okay, now I see what you're doing. I said, okay, I'll go speak to my lieutenant and my captain. Don't worry about it. So, today, I went to go speak to my lieutenant and my captain. And it is May 25th, 2021. Yeah, it didn't end well. The conversation pretty much led to coming into the PD. My captain said, sit down and we're going to record what this is going to be a recorded conversation. I'm like, sure. Lieutenant stepped in the room. Cool, right? Thinking, all right, well, I guess I am in trouble. Who really knows? So I was like, do I need somebody here? Like, what is this? And he was like, no, we're just going to have a conversation. We're just talking. It's like, okay, what's up? So he was like, pretty much, Corey, we've gotten something from the academy that I wasn't planning on getting. And I'm like, okay, well, never had an issue with that. I was like, would you like to see my doctor's notes that they're saying was signed by my uncle, I'm guessing? And he said, well, that's not what we exactly heard. They're saying that you're lying about an injury. I was like, oh, I am. So I said, may I lift up my shirt? And he was like, what do you mean? I'm like, no, can I show you my injury? He was like, no, we're not going to go that far into it. We just, do you have any paperwork? Sure enough, got all my paperwork from my doctor. What more do you need? He said, well, I want to make sure that, we get through this. And I'm like, okay, no, sure. So the lieutenant jumps in, my lieutenant at my department, he jumps in and he says, I don't think this is a job for you. Wow. I was like, so you don't think I should work here? He was like, no, I mean, in general, I don't think policing's for you. I was like, why do you say that? He was like, because, you've had several issues with being on time. I said, never had an issue with being on time, but keep going. I said, you know what? I apologize. I'm going to let you talk. Through the entire thing, I'm not going to interrupt you guys, not one bit. And then I will ask, can I speak? He was like, okay. He was like, thank you for that respect. I said, you're welcome. Continue. So he was like, so I don't think this is a job for you. I was like, okay. Why don't you think this is a job for me? Tell me. In my mind, I didn't say it out loud, y'all. I ain't disrespectful. So he was like, I feel like it's so hard to talk about and I don't want to cry about it. So he was like, I feel like you are not completely honest with them at the academy. He was like, I don't think you're completely honest with yourself. And I was like, completely honest with myself. Okay. And he said, and with all these things adding up, you being on time or barely on time, or you're missing things. He was like, what if you're on the street and you're missing your equipment? Like, so I'm sorry, my phone thing cut off. So pretty much, where I left off was I was telling him, like, I got all my PT clothes in my car and all my equipment. And, like, if you feel like I'm not worthy of being here, then, like, let me know. Let me know now so I can give you my stuff and I'll leave. And he was like, well, hold on. We're not. I said, no. I let y'all talk. I said, let me talk. Let me say my piece and then we can go from here. I have worked hard. I was like, I worked really hard. I was like, there's people in that there's young adults in that academy that ain't really want to be there, but they're there. And they've gotten more memos than I have ever had. I said, but I'm not trying to place blame. I said, I'm just proving a point. I was like, so if you feel like I'm not ready, to be a part of your department? Tell me. I was like, because then I will go. I will drop my stuff off, and you have every right to discontinue me from the academy, and I will go on my way. I said, but to call me a liar, that's going to be a problem. It's going to be a very big problem. I was like, so we're not going to do that. So if I have to go to court, like, Gory, we are not calling you a liar. You're not. We know you're not. And I was like, okay, so why am I under investigation then? You just said it yourself. Why am I under investigation? Tell me. Here is all, y'all, paperwork out the ass I gave him. Still was like, you're still going to be under investigation. We can't do it. That's just the academy. So, with that being said, I was like, I am not restarting the academy. He's like, well, we don't want you to go. We want you to understand that. I said, I'm not restarting that academy, and I'm not going to wait out for this investigation that's bogus. Sorry. I will sign my resignation letter today. Comes down to it, I'll see you in court. This doesn't make any sense. If it's not me, then why am I under investigation? Y'all are my department. Y'all should have my back, if anything. And they're like, well, how are we going to have your back? This is the lieutenant. It's like, how are we going to have your back when you're showing us that you don't really want to be there? And I'm like, well, are you done talking? You want me to answer? Or did he's like, well, it's a hypothetical question. Like, Gory, we train you in the academy. They train you in the academy, and then we train you when you come here. We can't train you to, and then he paused for a long time, said, we want you to be prepared when you come out of the academy, and we want you to pretty much we want to be training you for the street, not for what you need to bring to the street. And I'm like, okay. I was like, okay. So I'm just shaking my head. And dude, I wanted to cry, but I'm like, I ain't gonna give them the satisfaction. I'm like, okay, so is that everything that you wanted to say? And he was like, yeah, but I'm not saying it in a bad way. He's like, maybe down the line you can become a great police officer. He said, but right now I don't think this is a job for you. I was like, okay. What am I to say to that? That's your opinion. He said, yeah, no, you're right. And I said, okay. So I looked at the captain.